Well, it's been a massive week in the United States, from impeachment hearings to the Democratic debate. For more on this, I am joined by Alex Shephard from the New Republic. Thanks for being with us this morning, Alex. Donald Trump has become the third president in history to be impeached. What can we expect from the trial in the Senate? It looks like not much is changing. It looks like the Republicans are all standing firm.
Yeah, sort of in keeping with this surreal moment in American politics, the last week has been both historic and nothing has changed whatsoever. The Senate trial at this point, I think the president was hoping that it would start sometime in early January. Nancy Pelosi is holding back the articles of impeachment right now in an attempt to extract leverage out of Mitch McConnell, her counterpoint in the Senate. Whether or not she'll be able to do that is an open question. But right now, it looks like the impeachment trial will probably end up coinciding with the very start of the Democratic primary season.
Yeah, it does look like the Democrats are starting to try to delay the trial. How long could they do that for?
I think they're sending two signals right now. I think Pelosi is trying to really sort of show strength and push Trump, make him sweat a little bit to try to get him to allow people like Mike Pompeo to testify in the trial, John Bolton as well. Whether or not they actually have the stomach to go through with this for more than a couple weeks, I think the signals that they're sending right now are that really they might hold back for a couple of weeks until the end of the recess on January 7th. But beyond that, I don't expect them to go, into February.
The president hasn't paused for a moment, has he? His defiant stance has stayed the same way. He's even said this is a declaration of war.
Yeah, I mean, his response has been characteristic in many ways. He's sort of been as bombastic as perhaps he's ever been in his time in office, which is saying something. I mean, he's really trying to show strength. He's trying to rally his base around him. I think there's a reason why he had a rally in Michigan at the same time that the Democrats were voting to send these articles of impeachment to the Senate. He's trying to show that his base is behind him, that he still has a 95% approval rating within the Republican Party, that no Republican congressman backed his impeachment, and that I think that if any Republican senators tried to break ranks, the response would be fast and furious from the White House. And
he's got a supporter here on this impeachment with Vladimir Putin in his corner.
Yeah, I think over the last couple of weeks, what we've seen as well is that both the Ukrainians and the Russians have tactically backed the president. I think for pretty obvious foreign policy reasons. Putin himself has sort of used the president's exact language. I think there's a reason. There's a very calculated reason for doing that. I think he wants people to be talking about how Vladimir Putin is backing the U.S. president, but it also does show the sort of the alliance these two have formed over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's a bit more frosty with his mate Kim Jong-un in North Korea, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing over the last week or so has been, one, that North Korea has sort of fallen out of the news, and whenever that happens, you can expect them to do something, I'll use understatement, interesting. But one of the most interesting things heading into an election is that, this sort of détente with North Korea was one of the president's sort of shining foreign policy achievements. But what you're seeing now is that, one, that was always built on sand. But two, that I think Kim Jong-un is going to use the presidential cycle, the election cycle, to try to extract more concessions from the United States and others.
It looks like Joe Biden has his nose in front with the Democratic race, but it all starts to heat up in the new year, doesn't it? It all starts to get very serious, and things need to tighten up for the Democrats if they're going to pose an opposition to Donald Trump, despite anything going on with the impeachment or anything else.
Yeah, the Democratic debate that happened on Thursday was quite interesting in that Biden, for the most part, stayed above the fray. I mean, Bernie Sanders attacked him a few times, but the sort of defining moments in that debate all involved Pete Buttigieg, who, although he is a front runner in Iowa, which votes first, is only polling at about between 6% and 8% nationally. It does feel like this week has been a kind of grace note to an election cycle that's really going to accelerate after the new year.
And finally, I need to ask you about the trade deal with China.
Yeah, I think that it's an interesting moment. Basically, the president has made these trade deals a centerpiece of his reelection strategy, and they're all kind of starting to fall into place at this moment. But whether or not we'll get to a final settlement that really changes things politically, I think is still an open question. We've approached these conclusions a couple times before, and things have fallen apart. I think right now the president's under an enormous amount of pressure to finish this off, particularly before before the election. And I think China knows that they've got leverage right now, and they're going to use it.
But for the moment, it's focus on turkey and the trimmings, I suppose. 2 weeks off for Christmas.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be an interesting moment politically as people go home and spend time with their families and discuss everything that's happening. But it's a strange moment in terms of U.S. politics. I mean, we did just pass. The government will not shut down as it did a year ago, but senators are going to go home and they're going to think a lot about the impeachment trial that's going to start, probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Alex, thanks for coming on our show. We look forward to you contributing throughout the course of 2020. Have a great Christmas and New Year with your family.
Happy Christmas. Thank you.